Hello, welcome back to Better Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, we're gonna do something that's pretty interesting. It's not like you've done this similar thing using animation nodes, but we're gonna do it using Sverchok and we're gonna do it using script node. So the actual script itself, the actual algorithm is actually super simple, which is only these few lines here. But to understand the whole thing, I think I'm gonna try my best. This is actually an example from one of Sverchok developer, Zevi, and he gave me this example, and then I kind of studied and then try to do it from scratch. I actually did it a couple of times until I kind of memorize it and understand it. So I'm not really like memorizing it, but anyhow, the idea is to make the random walk. Yeah, so I'll explain really quick. Basically, we're gonna create this script node, and this script node actually takes it can take a list of random vectors. It's not just like a single list of random vector, but it actually able to take multiple random vectors. This is what I'm doing. I actually have 15 random walks running at the same time. And the way Sverchok works, the way it can easily vectorize a lot of data, like a multiple of data you can pass in, and then it will process the whole thing. It's kind of interesting for me, and I don't know if it's totally unique, but I think I found it pretty interesting anyway. So we can end up with this multiple random walk. So it's not just a single random walk curve. Okay, so yeah, this kind of complex maybe, but it's actually, this is one of the simplest example you can do using algorithm actually. So let's see how we can do this. Sverchok SV SN for script node, and this is a accumulative. Actually, the actual algorithm is just accumulating vector position. So it's actually that simple. So I'm gonna use the compositing layout, switch on Sverchok add-on, new, and here I'm gonna write the Python script for our script nodes. Okay, so yeah, let's get started. Script node. Script node is something that I'm still getting used to. It's not as scary as before, but still sometimes I need to think. The only thing with script node is that it actually able to do this vectorization. So you kind of from the beginning, in order to take advantage of Sverchok, you want to um, prepare a list of data, so not just a single data again. So if you have like a random vector here, maybe 5, and whoops, it just crashes. So I'm gonna restart Blender. Sometimes it does that. And I'm gonna restart real quick. Okay, so let's say you have these nodes. These nodes kind of simplify the process. It will generate 5 random vector, right? Let's have a look. So this a bunch of numbers, but if we tidy up a little bit, like that, this is a bunch of, this is only 5 vector. Vector is a 3 value x, y, z. These 3 values to represent x, y, z, and they're representing points, of course. You're already familiar with this. So 5 random points, we can randomize it, we get different value, so that's cool. So the thing with Sverchok is that very often you're gonna deal with multiple value like this. So it's not just a single value. So multiple random vector, each with different seed. Now you have 15 points inside a single list. And the actual data looks like this for Sverchok. You see the bracket thing? See this bracket, and okay, you will see this Sverchok thing. So there's like a multiple list inside list inside list. So this is the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And second one, and then third one. They're kind of already being separated, I think. So it was like this, and then join into a single flat list. So anyhow, that's a quick look at multiple lists. Like I said, since we are gonna be dealing with multiple lists, just be prepared for that, because when we are using scripted node, we might actually need to consider that kind of list structure. So let's create a scripted nodes for our random walk. Create a, we already have the text, right? No, new text. Call this vector accum. So it's gonna accumulate the vector value. Basically, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna have a bunch of random vectors, and we want to add the vector one by one, and then kind of it's gonna accumulate, and for each vector being added, the points will kind of move into the next position. So that creates what I call the random walk in this case. So scripted nodes, we need to start with some kind of input and output, so in and out. So this is how we started. Like I said, I'm still getting used to this. So in and out, and for the in, it's gonna be the input, so I'm gonna call it verts in, and the output's gonna be verts out. That's the type is gonna be v vector 3 value. And so if we just load this script now, we're gonna have verts input and vertex output. Okay, so that should be pretty clear. And we want to now process this vert in. Like I said, the vert in can contain multiple random vectors, so not just one. You can imagine you can have 4, 5, or 10, or 100. So because of that, we're gonna say for every vert in, and yeah, that's how we actually started with the whole thing. Vert in is gonna contain list of random vectors. So it's not just a single random vector, and random vectors can be many values, and we're gonna process each and every list of random vector. We're gonna process that. So maybe actually I should kind of try joining it, at least join it. And pipe it in there, and the output's gonna be something, but actually, well, don't worry about that, I guess. So continue on with this. For verts in, we are going to create a new list that gonna contains all our new vectors when they are accumulated. So I will create a new verts list, and it's gonna be an empty list, and we're gonna append a vector like a starting point. So starting point, let's call it A. This is our starting vector point. Normally this is 0, 0, 0, and this guy is actually gonna be a vector. In order to use a vector object in the script, we need to load it first. So I'm gonna increase the size. Okay, we have to import the from Blender Math Utils import vector. This is a type of object that we can use. So if we say for our starting points vector this with this object, it's gonna give 0, 0, 0 actually by default. But we can also specify like 5, 0, 0 or something, or 0, 0, 0. Doesn't matter. This will work. Make sure it looks something like this. Okay, so new verts is an empty list, but we want to put this starting points for this list. So we're gonna append this vector. And to append a vector into a list in Sverchok, we need to use this kind of a symbol. This basically convert like a vector type of data into just a normal list, because Sverchok like lists. So list inside a list inside a list is a very much Sverchok thing. Okay, so that's cool. So this will work, and we're gonna continue on, and we're gonna say for every vert in verts, we're gonna do something. So we are actually now going deeper. So like I said, so in Sverchok we provide a bunch of lists of data. So first of all, for verts in, that means we're gonna be working on every list of random vector, and for every list of random vector, of course, we have bunch of vector value, right? 3 value. So inside of every single list, we have list of vector XYZ. And for that, we're gonna do what we are going to do, which is to accumulate vector. So start with a starting point A. We're gonna append. We're gonna add vert, but the vert A itself is a vector. The vert itself is a list, so we need to convert this into a vector. So that's the thing with any programming language. I think if you want to kind of process certain type of object, you need to do this kind of what do you call it, conversion, or maybe called casting. So we are basically adding the number for each iteration. You can also write this this way if you like. I think it's the same thing. So yeah, it's gonna do it as many as we have the random vector, and that will do the job. It's gonna iterate inside this guy right here, and as a result, we're gonna append it into our new vert. Just append the new value, and once we are done with that, we can append the whole new verts into our verts out. So verts out, we're gonna append this new vert. I think this is the whole script. The actual algorithm itself is just this line right here. This will do it for a single list. So we have, let's say we have three lists of random vectors. For each list of random vector, we're gonna do this algorithm. Very simple, just adding from from a starting point, we're gonna add the random vector value and keep adding again, and the list gonna grow, and we get the final result, and we're gonna append it into a new verts list. And for each list, we're gonna append it into this verts out. For verts, the new verts out will contain a list of lists again, and that's gonna be for our random vector, for our random walk. Okay, so I'm gonna reload, and okay, it's giving me error. Let's check it out. What's going on? Non-type object. Okay, since with this script doesn't have some kind of error checking, but it doesn't matter. This one should actually work. So we have a single, let's say a random vector, just a single random vector. Single will actually work as well. Plug into this guy and increase the value, and you will see it's already doing this random walk. So we have 500. We can go like 1,000 points, and it's gonna keep walking randomly. And with Sverchok, if you have like a list of points kind of in order, you can easily use a UV connection and UV connections, and switch to edges, and you're gonna get this very easy. And you can randomize the seed. Now you have this kind of interesting looking line. You can control the scaling. If you actually change the starting point to 500 and then update this guy, it's gonna move 5 points, but we don't need to do that. We can always kind of we can always change with using the matrix over here. So matrix in, if we change the location, we can kind of move our line there. Okay, random walk is fine. How about what I keep talking about, multiple random vector? This is when things get interesting. So in Sverchok, you can do this with a script node. Instead of having just a single random vector, you can have multiple, like I said. You can do it like this. Oops. So you can have, okay, 5 points, and then maybe this one 10, this one 15. Combine all of them together, pipe into this guy, and join level should be 1 or 2, I don't know. I'm gonna randomize the seed. Have a look. Okay, so apparently I think join level list should be level 1. So we have 3 lists of random vector, and this script node will do the job. So this is gonna iterate over this list of random value. So for this guy, this block of lines, we will do all these, and then for each random vector, it's gonna do this kind of algorithm, just accumulate the vector and then give it a new list for our random walk. So we actually have 3 different random walk here. I'm gonna delete the grease pencil, and I'm gonna increase this guy, and then increase this guy, and then this guy. And you will see, if you don't believe me, if I give 3 random, if I give like a 3 value here, just use a random vector, just say 3 position for the locations, and then put it at 3 different places. You see we have 3 completely different random walk. And even cooler is that instead of using 3 random vector, you can kind of have multiple data. So this is very cool in Sverchok that you can do this. So we start with a single node, but for the count we can give a different value. So random number, let's say we want 10 random walk, and the line should be between 100 and 300. We just plug this into the count. Here we actually have 10 different random walk. And you can also randomize the seed. For sure we need to randomize the seed, because otherwise if I bake this, they are all, I think, pretty much the same. Not very interesting. So random number, it's gonna be for the seed, so 10, actually not random number, range integer, it's gonna be step of 1, starting from 0, stop at 10, or just use count, doesn't matter, plug it into the seed. Now we have 10 different random walk, each with different lengths depending on this low and high number. If we check the number, so that's the length of each random walk, how many steps they're gonna walk and then gonna stop. If we bake it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. 10 different random walk. Okay, so that's, I think, pretty cool, because you can increase this random walk and then you will see it gets really complex very easily, and you can have like maybe 50 random walk, and you know, and everything is being controlled from here. I found this very cool and very interesting, and this is actually only using a very simple algorithm, a very simple one. Just accumulate the vector of random vector. But since we are doing it for multiple random walks, so we have, like in this case that we have 10, we can have 100 or 1,000, but that's like a lot of data being processed at the same time, and the node itself rather simple. This script node's doing all the job. I was actually trying to do this using Sverchok monad, like a group thing in Sverchok. That's kind of a little bit difficult. If you are using animation nodes, the loop thing in animation nodes, it's probably kind of simpler. But if we are doing it using script, it seems pretty complicated. But then once you are like a little bit more in advanced level, this syntax here, this Python script, is actually much more efficient. Sometimes you do kind of starting to use Python script for things, and you can try things a lot faster like this. Okay, hopefully this is pretty clear. Yes, some part maybe still. If you think this is like still too complicated, you can look at my other previous video on random walk and animation nodes, and how you use nodes and to kind of wiring values, and then to iterate over random vector. It's actually exactly the same thing, except that in Sverchok you can kind of pass in a lot of multiple values, and then even this a simple node kind of iterate over multiple random vectors, and then for each random vector it's gonna do these accumulations. I found it a very kind of funny, that because the to accumulate a vector is actually super simple, but I know like a few years ago when I first look at this algorithm, it feels very scary, but now it's a little bit easier for me. And this is actually one of the simplest example on this example for this to explain how you can accumulate numbers, or in this case we accumulate vectors. Yeah, so there's a lot of information. I think this is probably one of my hardest live noding video, because it covers a lot of concept in Sverchok and also Python, but I think maybe 10 years from now, this is gonna be like, oh, this thing is so simple, because maybe here, this simple few lines of code, you can replace it with any algorithm to generate points that's instead of random walks. It's probably just a little bit clever, you know, like create like a proper pi or something. I don't know, just like a particle simulations that you can simulate just starting from here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Thanks again for tuning in, and hopefully this is useful. Let me know what you think. Maybe any feedback, suggestion, let me know. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time.